courageously is partially about knowing your values, knowing what you care about, knowing what you believe about the world, about your life, about situations, about relationships and others, and choosing to act from your values, even when that can be really costly, or when others might not understand what you're doing or why you're doing it. So I think it's that aligning your life with your values, and figuring out what that looks like. I think it can also be choosing to grow and choose to push yourself out of your comfort zone, even when that might be something that feels quite frightening and scary to do. And so, yeah, choosing to keep putting yourself in situations where you can grow and develop when actually you just want to shrink back and hide away. Um, but choosing intentionally to live outwardly and giving of yourself, but also learning in the process. I think it can also be, if I'm honest, being real about who we are. I think living courageously has something to do with authenticity and that kind of being honest, about who we are, what's happened, what we haven't done, what we have done. And also having a humility within that, with probably quite a bit of humor. I'd say they're quite values of mine, actually. Honesty, humor, humility to say, hey, I didn't do a great job here, but actually I want to keep, again, growing and learning and moving forward from that. So I think it's being real. I think it's choosing to keep growing, even when you're feeling that pull to come back to what you know, and also knowing your values and choosing to live from them, even when that can be really costly. What does it not mean? What does living courageously not mean? Well, it doesn't mean you've got to fake it and try and look like you're awesome and being courageous and climbing all the mountains when actually your life feels a bit more like a valley. Um, I think actually I'd also want to say that sometimes living courageously doesn't look like success in the traditional sense. Even as I'm recording this, I'm thinking of a really close friend of mine who has kind of put career on hold to care for a relative in intensive care at the moment. And I'm just seeing that as such courage and living out her values in real life. And it might not look like the traditional career path or bottom line or profit that you think it would. Actually, being courageous can be in the hidden places of life, as well as facing up to the valleys of life too. And so I think a part of that would be that living courageously isn't about presenting as perfect, but it is about choosing to look for progress and look to celebrate where we're growing, even as we're acknowledging we completely fall short sometimes and get it wrong and mess up completely. And so, yeah, I think living courageously sounds like it's all bright and shiny. I think the way I see it is that living courageously can be a lot more gritty and real and honest than that. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you're not being courageous if your life feels a bit messy sometimes. Certainly, I think when I look back over my life, it's when things have all gone pear-shaped, as us Brits would say, when things have all gone wrong and it's all gone very differently to how we'd hoped or expected. And you're kind of like picking yourself up through that I've had to show the most courage in my life. And I see that in the leaders that I work with as well, that oftentimes it's not so much in the bright, shiny seasons of your life that courage is really formed, but actually those moments where you've had to face up to the fact that you're flat on your face or things have really disappointed you. And it's how you respond to that and grow in I mean, resilience would be the buzzword, but often that's just picking yourself up when you feel rubbish and thinking, right, how can I still choose to go? And who have I become as a result of what's happened? And actually integrate that into how I then do things differently, that it's not just trying to flip back and pretend you're who you were before, but say, how can I openly and honestly respond to what I've lived through and come out the other side as a fresh new version of me, even with some of the bruises still there. Um, and so, yeah, I think I think that's a bit more what living courageously actually looks like. What made me choose the name? Well, I think it was actually really funny. I didn't want to call my business Living Courageously because on one level, I felt like I'm not always living courageously. In fact, this feels like quite a an aspirational and inspirational goal for me. That is, I want to be someone who is living courageously. I don't feel like I always am at all. In fact, I wanted to call the business the Reluctant Pioneer. So that was my working title for quite a while, because that felt more aligned with my reality, that I was doing things, but I was doing them very reluctantly and not really wanting to be there. But I felt very personally challenged, actually. I'm quite a spiritually minded person. And as I was reflecting one day, I just had this feeling in my gut that I didn't want to give my company a name that would limit me to my current present reality, and that would be defining me by what I was hesitantly doing. Rather, I wanted to, yeah, I felt like it was quite important actually to put something there which was to push me to become who I wanted to be. So even though I have that title of living courageously, I'm totally honest that it's a work in progress. But that's where I want to be going and where I want to be developing myself. And that's actually a lot of what I experience in working with different leaders in their life, personally or in their workplace, professionally, is that kind of, this is who I want to be. This is what is actually happening. How can I get there? That's kind of what often one-on-one or team coaching is all about, is that journey that we go through of becoming who we really want to be and what that looks like in our practice. So I almost feel like Living Courageously should have the subtitle of, thinking and acting from the Reluctant Pioneer, or the Reluctant Pioneer's journey, or um, yeah, how a reluctant pioneer became brave, or something. Maybe that's more in line with where I am. Yeah, I think for myself, some of the things I've realized I value that have emerged over the last few years would be honesty, humor, humility, and often they all come out together. Of taking an honest look at yourself often makes you partially cry and think, oh my goodness, what am I even doing? But also have a good laugh because, hey, we're humans, we get things wrong, we do crazy things sometimes. So I think they're quite important in the integrity and authenticity part, but also creativity and looking at something and thinking, how can this be made into something even better? That creative gaze on something to bring out potential. Often that's linked with beauty for me, not necessarily physically or externally, although it can be, but actually thinking, what would it look like for this situation or for this collaboration to be more beautiful, or to bring out the best in everyone. And I think I mentioned sort of collaboration there. I think collaboration is also something which I'm growing in seeing as something that's really important. I think early on I was somebody who liked to control everything and have everything in my own power because I want to hold all the reins. And actually the value and power of collaboration and collaborating early in projects, I'm learning and growing into that as a value as well. And then I guess obviously, courage and bravery and choosing to keep growing, keep developing, keep moving forward. I think that there's often a kind of desire in me to keep moving beyond. I think sometimes the flip side of that can be a drivenness, which can sometimes be um, taking me to a point of discontentment. So I have to be careful with that. But actually, yeah, learning to realize that it's that desire for things to be beyond where they are now. And yeah, I think also I come from a faith-based background, and I think spirituality has always been and will always be an important part of who I am and how I make decisions. Um, yeah, that sense of actually as humans that we have emotions and a soul, as well as the logical space that leads to our action. And so, yeah, for me, I think I work with different clients from all over the world and from different faith perspectives. Um, some who would say they're not really spiritual at all, fair enough, that's fine. But yeah, I'm always open to actually what are we sensing and discerning on a spiritual level, as well as simply what do we think or feel about situations. So I think, yeah, they're some of the sort of pieces that form part of who we are becoming at Living Courageously. Hi, I'm Ruth, life and leadership coach with Living Courageously, where we are all about equipping you to live a courageous life with resilience, courageous hope, and creativity. So, who's journeying with you as you step into a courageous life right now? Get in touch if you'd like to explore how we could